Hello and welcome. Hi. Boop, 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 boop. Today
keep it on, Jack.
No, it's really hot. Right. Today,
please put it back on.
We are joined by. No. Right. That's so much better.
Pull yourself together. Come on.
No. Right. Today we are joined by Tony Merchant.
Why do you always say it Merchant when you know it ain't? Because every single person who rings me up says Tony Merchant.
And of course, our vicar today is Painless 360. How you doing?
Hello. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm all good. You're going to be our minister, our pastor for this evening, and
nominated grown up.
Yeah, that's it. And we'll be commencing the marriage later, just before you go, and then hopefully the other guys. We've already got a question. What do we think of the evolution?
Which evolution?
I ain't got a clue. Like
the Mitsubishi.
That's the Evo. Well, I'd rather have that than a Subaru. I'll say that.
Yeah, same here.
But there you go.
Christmas, everyone. Look at, Jack made us wear silly hats.
Except Painless.
Yeah,
he doesn't come on camera.
No, I don't. And also, I didn't get the memo.
No, that's fine.
He's Christmased up his hands, but we can't see them.
No, they're covered in tinsel.
Right. So yeah, what's in your stocking this Christmas, Painless?
Well, hopefully Mrs. Painless, but that's another story. But hey, well, at the moment we're kind of just coming to the end of all the stuff for December and starting to do videos for January, and it's been really weird actually putting 2017's date on stuff before we get there. But we've been playing a lot with that Brain FPV RE1 flight controller. You know, the F4 based one. Yeah, that's turning out to be pretty good. Have you seen that stuff, Tony?
Is that for the micro stuff?
No,
that's the B.
Oh yeah.
It's the Brain FPV RE1's an F4 based flight controller, but it's a bit funky. It's not just like an F3 on steroids. It actually has its own image for drone in and beta flight, and the image for beta flight also includes a vector based on-screen display. So do you know when you first tried a Minim OSD and before you plugged it in or you saw your first video, you really wanted it to be like the cockpit of a fighter plane like Top Gun?
Yep.
And when you tried your Minim OSD, it really, really wasn't.
Yeah.
This actually is. It's absolutely brilliant. So, and it also does some cool stuff like if you can also do, you can do all your settings like you can with a Minim OSD, you know, change your PIDs and all that jazz. But you can also have a live spectrum analyzer going when you're flying, and it shows you all the vibrations and harmonics in real time on a graph because it's all vector based as you're flying. So if you want to know where you need to set your notch filter for beta flight, you just go and fly and then watch your FPV stuff and see where you have the problem and then set your notch filter.
That sounds pretty cool. I'd like to do PIDs on the fly as well. I went out for PID tuning today and I made it worse and come home all angry.
Did you write down where you started?
I just need to go backwards a bit. I'm getting oscillations on turns on race flight.
Oh, your race flight. Okay. Wow. Right. The raggedy edge.
I know. Right. Sorry. No, we're going to close this open software. No, none of that. I made the mistake of asking Von Quad. He's got one of the creators of Racefly on his show, and I was like, "Why do we have to join a cult in order to download the hex?" So I think there's a picture of me on the wall with like no like on there, you know, and they'll throw a broken prop at me and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't. I think D-Shot on Kiss flies better. And at least Boris has got something to do with that.
So Tony,
That's
what's the attraction of race flight for you then? Why have you having a crack with that?
I just wanted a change really, and there's a few things on there like you don't have to set minimum throttle and things like that. So it just makes it looks like it's going to be easier when it's finalized.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's not finalized yet.
No, it's not. We were talking to somebody about getting some boards in that were race flight only to have a look at. And then when I started delving into the software, I started to get nervous really quickly. Because, of course, if we do a video on it, setting it up, and it's on a pre-release version of the software, I can pretty much guarantee that it'll be out of date when the proper release comes out. So we've kind of held off doing anything with race flight until end of January, kind of February time, because that's when everyone thinks, or is telling me at the moment, that it'll be stable. But your guess is probably as good as mine.
No, no, it feels really good when I'm flying it. It felt great on stock, but I tried adjusting things and it went wrong.
You tried to push it, Tony, didn't you?
Yes.
God.
It's only on my turns. It flies really. I up the P quite a lot, and it flies better, more locked in. But when I turn, I get really bad oscillations.
Is it on the really aggressive turns or quite smooth ones?
On the aggressive ones, on the smooth ones, it's fine.
So
Like,
that's more like a D thing.
Nice, slow, swoopy turns are fine, but it's just when I turn really sharp, it holds its angles. I know it's not
yeah.
It just flutters on the way down, and it actually. Well, does it drop a bit? Or that might be me. It flutters.
See, that sounds like D gain, doesn't it? When you do aggressive stops and stuff.
It does a bit. I did start playing with the D, but then D you can muck about and start mucking up your motors and making it run hot and stuff like that. So I need more time. It got dark quick. It was wet. I was sitting on a wet bench. You know, it's over there. So.
Speaking of darkness, actually, cameras. Have either of you played with any of the night stuff from Runcam?
Oh, I want one, though.
I've got a Night Eagle, and I've so far it hasn't my place just yet, but I'm really impressed with it. Had all the lights off, and you can kind of see. I think I need to adjust my contrast. And I got my remote controls from like my TV and stuff like that, and was like pressing the buttons, and you can actually see the infrared pattern of the LED flashing to get the signal to the device, which is really crazy.
Oh, actually, on the camera.
Yeah, so you watch the screen and you'll press the button of the remote of your TV, and you can see it like flash. I don't recommend it for anyone who's got epilepsy, but it is kind of cool to see.
That's how I normally check my batteries in my remote with my mobile phone. I turn the camera on and shine it at the remote to make sure I can see it flicking on and off.
Yeah.
But Jack, are you talking about looking at it like Tony's talking about, or using the LED at the end of your remote to kind of illuminate the room so you can see it?
It does both. It looks like a strobe light. Yeah, you got like a little weird pattern, kind of like eye shape. And yeah, you can see it flash onto things. Yep.
I'm excited about that. We've got one here, and I haven't got round to testing it up because we got one of those, those infrared flashlight things from the drone show, and I'm just worried I'm going to get arrested if people see me running around in the middle of a field with all this kind of night vision electronic stuff.
Yeah, I know. Because is it legal to fly at night without, I ain't got a clue. I don't know what you do to find out about that. Because
the CAA should be able to tell us that, shouldn't they? Next time one of us talks to them.
As long as you've got a green light on the right and a red light on the left, isn't it? Or is it the other way?
Oh, you mean the navigator strobe on the tail? Maybe that's all. Maybe that's all we need.
That's it.
All right. Speaking about the CAA, who here has been asked by people about the drone pilot license that apparently we're all going to have to take.
I've read about it, but I haven't been asked about it.
I have been asked about it today by people, yeah. So, and also I have a little link by the Smart Survey from the, hang on, copy link. Andrew posted it up in the private pre-press Let's Drone Out show. Unlocking the UK's high-tech economy, consultation on the safe use of drones in the UK. So apparently the BBC, Dom earlier on this morning, I believe, got a BBC radio interview about it, and yeah, so they're looking to make pilots take a test for, you know, to be able to fly drones.
For what reason?
What,
for safety? Because ISIS aren't going to take the safety test, are they?
Well, you don't have to target just ISIS. You know, there's other.
I was going to say, Tony, you've gone straight to the bottom there, haven't you? There's probably a lot of other people around who get drones for Christmas who will fly responsibly that probably aren't also going to build up a bomb out of diesel barrels and park it outside the local Tesco.
I know. Anyway, they're working on the technology of unmanned lorries. Really, you know, they're getting to drones, I think. Unmanned
lorries can kill as well.
Yeah, so I think we got bigger fish to fry than drones.
So just taking a step back, because we're starting to rat hole already. The question about the
that's what we do.
I've got a question for you. You see, I'm nominated grown up, so hey, it's my job. The question I've got for you guys is: Do you honestly think if they bring in some kind of test that we all have to go and turn up at a field and fly and be able to hover it for a minute within a meter square or whatever, do you honestly think that's going to make drones safer in the UK?
Of course, it's not.
No,
it's
not at all, really.
It's not
at all.
And I think everyone's kind of missed the point that the people who will actually go and do the test are not the people who are potentially going to cause the problem in the first place.
Exactly. I know, it's all stupid, isn't it? Ridiculous, really.
Where are the girls? Hang on. I haven't flown with the one on the show yet, but tests outside are awesome. It's illegal as long as you can see the quad. It's legal as long as you can see the quads, i.e. LED lights, and apparently paragliders don't have to have a license. Look, the thing that makes me kind of go, oh, what is all it does is cost us money, the people who
do it anyway,
are responsible, and legitimate. That irritates me, because if it isn't bad enough that we spend money on components and have to drive out in the middle of nowhere and try not to injure people, and we're paying the public liability insurance, and and then you just add a test to us. Is the test going to be renewable? Are they just tapping us for money? How hard is the test going to be, and how does that affect newbies in the hobby? How do you go, I'm interested in this hobby, I'm going to try it out for a bit, and then realize it's not really for me? If you've got to instantly do a test, how are you gonna practice in order to pass the test?
Maybe that's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for a intelligence test. Do you know what I mean? Like an IQ test, with questions like, do you think, where should you store your LiPo batteries? In a fire-safe bag, in your mouth, in your cooker, with your small child?
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that, unbelievable. Newbies, bless them, we've all been there, have got new and innovative ways to screw things up, and I'll give them that. But I don't know. It's not common knowledge. I mean, what next? Do we, is it going to be like drive-in tests where we've got to hire a professional? I don't know. Are the people like, what is it, drone school? Are they got in with the government? Is it just a sort of, you know, like, are we going to be there, like learning like GPS modes and that? You know, does
Is it gonna
Tony get
be
a minus
more
point for
prac-
always having a throttle that's open constantly? Because like, I don't know how many people know about Tony, but Tony flies mode 2, right? And Tony's throttle is sprung like his pitch. So his throttle always wants to stay just around about mid. Now he thinks it's because grew up, you know, with DJI, and he likes a sprung throttle. Like this guy he flies acro, full on rate mode, like, you know, like no stabilization. You're lucky if he's figured out how to turn the gyro on, right? But essentially, Tony has got a brick on his accelerator. Like if he lets go, his quad's just off completely.
It's nice, though. Nice having that, because like, you know, when you get an itch, and you can just let go and scratch it.
But then he's not in control.
So what we're saying is if we see Tony's quad take off towards the bottom of the field, then he might have had a stroke. Is that what we're saying?
Wow.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
But I would just like to see the examiner. You know, if there is a test, my enjoyment, the only reason I'm not going to complain that much is I want to be present during Tony's test. Tony can't fly line of sight. I'm not that good either.
I can now. I've had practice.
Okay. Tony can fly line of sight-ish. And then the other one is he's going to take one look at Tony's setup and go, no. You know, like, also, like, what are we going to be testing on? Are they going to have to... Has anyone done the BNUC test? Because, like, I've heard rumours that you have to have a, like, registered, passable quadcopter, you know, in order to do it. And if you haven't got the CE marks on stuff, it has to be tested. So like if you
weatherman and know maps and loads of stuff.
Yeah, like how much is this going to be relevant for a race quad? Is it just going to be an absolute, you know, how much is it going to cost?
I think we've got to wait to find out, haven't we? I mean, I did my amateur radio license thing back in the days when somebody told me that if I got it, I could use higher powered FPV equipment, and that's not actually true because the radio stuff only covers ground-based transmission. So you know what? It doesn't help at all. But that was quite an interesting thing because that was like a weekend. You went along, you actually told some common sense, went through like a little workbook, and at the end of it, you had to do an exam. But I'd imagine that there'd also have to be some kind of practical for a quadcopter thing. I mean, I know most of the people that I fly with who are still learning would struggle to do even the most, you know, like hovering a 1 meter box for 2 minutes. You know, a lot of the people who are new to quadcopters would bloody struggle with that, unless you've got something like a really expensive high-end DJI GPS assisted mode, you know, altitude, blah blah blah. For the rest of us who are just using line of sight and careful throttle management, that's, you know, that takes months of practice to be able to do. So are you allowed to fly and get that level of proficiency before you did the test? Or, you know, like Tony was saying, it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. But it's not, you know, I don't think it's fundamentally going to change the safety of the hobby in the UK, because the people who are going to abuse the quads and do daft things with them aren't going to be the ones taking the test.
Oh, it's nuts, isn't it? Like, you know, it's like why stop there? You know, are they gonna, you're gonna have to register your aircraft? What happens if you want to sell it? I don't know. It's such a strange concept, because it's not like, what happens. Are you going to need to like show your license in order to buy a DJI Phantom at the store? And then is that going to then push it black market, where someone will buy one and then sell it to someone who hasn't got a license for more money because they don't want to get the license? Because they know that they're going to do something naughty with it.
Well, even if it's in the UK, it doesn't stop somebody going on a Banggood or a Gearbest or one of those boys and just ordering a quad. That those won't care whether or not you've got an appropriate license. They'll just assume that you'll do the right thing when you get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we do need a little bit more regulation, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to help.
Yeah. What do you think we need more regulation in?
Just to try and stop some of the silliness, because the problem is that if you look at what's happened in America with the 250 gram limit, I don't think we need to go that far. But at the moment, with the stuff that we've got, there's lots of people who are still doing things that are getting reported. I mean, how many incidents is it with people flying near aircraft? You know, all that. There needs to be a little bit more control around that and penalties. But it's kind of how do you enforce that, and how do you make sure the right people are getting the message?
Because I wouldn't say more regulation. I would say more education, if anything. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, do you know what? Like, we don't need a test. You know, we could just show up somewhere and like watch this presentation or something, or fill out a little survey, little question thing that observes, like, you get a login, you log in, they show you the information, you tick through it, and then you apparently have done it.
Yep.
You know, I thought it was plastic bags near aircraft. There's no real. I mean, Don brought up an interesting point. Just keep HBI guy says leave the regulations. Just kick the arse of the people that do that stupid shit. Dom said, like, there's a lot of these reports by pilots pilots in the Pilots Association, and they're worried about he believes that maybe a chance is that they're worried about getting replaced by unmanned aircraft, and like, you know, their job's going to be taken over by the technology that we're using eventually. So, you know, they kind of, you know, they're calling yellow car. You know, if they see it, then it's a yellow car, and they're calling it out. You know, it could be a plastic bag or a UFO. If Tony's got his tinfoil hat on,
there's always UFOs up there.
You know, but Tony's not really worried about what the pilots say anyway, because apparently they just spend their time flying in a circle anyway. So, because like apparently the Earth's flat, so like, you know, we don't actually travel anywhere. You know, and the sun's on a bit of a string, and lizard people are in charge. So yeah, how is that chip on your brain anyway, Tony?
Can't hear you anymore.
I don't know, man. I think the CAA is doing a good job of regulating us anyway. Do you know what I mean? I think it's all.
I think they are. I think.
Also.
I think the problem is that if the common sense rules that we're all supposed to adhere to don't work, then they will be forced to take action and do something a bit tougher. And that's the thing that I'm always worried about. And the problem is at the moment is drones seem to be one of those things that if something goes wrong, drones seem to be like the scapegoat. So if a pilot sees something white whizzing across his nose as he comes into land, it's immediately reported as a drone, even if it turns out to be, you know, a carrier bag from the local spa. And the problem is that all the fact that it's a drone's heavily reported, but the fact that they subsequently realise it was a Tesco bag from Spa isn't as widely talked about. And you got people jumping on the bandwagon, you know, talking when it's on the radio, talking about however many hundred incidents, whatever an incident is. And it just, the more it goes along, the more, or the harder it is for the regulatory authorities to ignore it, isn't it? That's the problem that we've got.
Yeah, I mean, Tony's a walking incident. Just ask him about when he put up his fence. So
it just cost me £500.
And then he's
how
like,
the hell did you make £500 out of a fence?
Me and my brother went through the gas mains.
That'll do it.
And then like later on, unrelated, I'm chatting to him in the car and stuff, and he was like, you know, I had a house you know, with X amount of rooms and stuff, and my gas bill was cheaper. And then I was like, you do realise you used a load of gas by piercing a hole in the hose. You know, you're still metered for that. Yeah, it's just
It wasn't coming out that fast, Jack.
Yeah, I know, but that's still going to put it up, your bill. But if you build your own drone, you know the regulations. Yeah, maybe. I think you have like mechanical sympathy for your quad and an understanding of how it works, but you know, you don't necessarily know, you know, because like out in the flying field, you know, you know that, you know, the weird thing is I can injure Tony because he's under my control because I'm married to him, and if I hit some other stranger, then that's not good. You know what I mean? So
I think it's going back to your point. I think you're absolutely right about the education thing, Jack. I think that is.
Yeah.
I think it's probably our duty to help new pilots coming in figure out what responsible flying looks and feels like.
There's no penultimate video for like I'm a newbie, and this is what I want to go into, because you have to just divide it into subcategories. You'd almost have to have like a little bit of an advert of like, this is a drone. Are you interested in getting into drones? And this is how you do it, step by step by step. And that will change between like people go, I get a lot of this, like, oh, I really want to get into drones. And then the first question I have to ask is, what do you want to do with it? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it for photography? Are you going to race it? Are you just going to look at it? You know, are you going to use it as a blender? Do you want to entangle it in your girlfriend's hair?
We're still talking about drones, yeah?
Yeah, totally. Well, right. Brad has had an incident where he flew it into his missus's hair, and I have never seen a woman with laser vision before till that day, where she literally burnt a hole in his face through sheer anger. Shout out to Nikki. Poor girl. But yeah, I think that, you know, like with the whole GPS, like for instance, like with a race quad, you'd be like, this is what you do. You can't build it, you know, don't build it too fast. Don't fly it near people. Have respect if a pony comes round.
Yeah, don't use more than 25 milliwatt F2PV transmitter because you won't be able to use it in competition.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much to cover. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what do you do? You know, like, you know, like brand new newbie, I would say like, go buy like a little mini Hubsan, learn like the basics of what the sticks do, you know, in your house. This is a battery. It's made up of cells. There's 3 of these stacked together. Then you have to learn electronics. You have to learn your pilot skill. You have to learn your electronics. Then you're learning where you can and can't fly. Then you're learning like, you know, how the weather affects you. You know, loads of different stuff. How to charge batteries, and it's all, there's so much to take on, and it's very understandable why it can sort of like be overwhelming, you know. And then you think you know everything, and you don't. I mean, I still don't know everything.
Well, that's the cool thing about the hobby. Everything moves so fast. Is at the moment you think you've got a handle on it, somebody comes out with some new piece of technology, and you've got to get your head around it. But I think you know, I always say to everybody that comes to me and says, "Oh, I want to get a quadcopter. What should I buy?" And if the answer, you know, if you ever flown before, and if the answer is no, then I absolutely do the same. The Hubsan X4 has been the one that I've always said to everyone, have a go with that, because if you buy one of them for what, 30 quid or whatever it is, and it bores you to tears within 2 hours, then it's probably not the hobby for you. There's no point going out and buying a Hollybro X1 or you know, an X-Jag or one of these ready to fly racing machines, because if you can't, you know what it's like. I mean, sure, you've seen pilots as well that spend a load of money, get into it, and they don't get grabbed in the same way as other people do. It's like any hobby, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like, I remember when I first bought my Hubsan, I had like immediate like buyer's regret, because it wasn't really what I wanted it for. You know, like only now, from this is my little segue, like I'm flying like iNav, have I like remembered what it was about, which was like what initially why I got in there. Whereas like I wanted to fly, explore, and you know, like work with the technology, and that's
So glad you brought up iNav, because I did want to talk to you about that.
yeah. So you know, I mean, me and Tony had a 27-minute flight. It was a good laugh. You know, I'm starting to trust that quad more and more.
I love that quad. I don't think we should use it as bonfire night material anymore. I really like it.
I get a lot of jokes. You know what I mean?
Is this the wooden one? Is that what?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is poo copter. We call it poo copter or bonfire.
I mean,
Copter.
yeah, the kindling copter as well. Like, you know, I had some hipsters who were smoking weed at oh god, where is it? Preston Park, and they were like, "Wow, you made that out of rubbish," and I was like, "They're right."
Actually did.
You know, yeah, like you know,
But
and it's all like the most
24
expensive.
minutes, man. That's like better than any of the DJI stuff, isn't it?
I know.
I don't even think Phantom 4 can do that.
There's two things that I really love about. Well, there actually is. I'd say three. This is about the hobby, and the number one thing is annoying DJI owners. You know, like there's two methods for annoying DJI owners. Is if you've got your mini race quad, you give them your spare set of goggles, and you're like, check this out, and you fly like a mental person. They're like, holy Christ, and they think you're a pilot from Top Gun, and they're like, I've literally bought a camera attached to a balloon and it flies like a bus, you know, so they feel a bit of devastation. The next way to really annoy them is build exactly what they have out of wood for no money, from parts found on your floor. I mean, the ESCs haven't got heat shrink on them, it's electrical tape. Do you know what like the camera is like cheap, everything's like grey and pink. That's the two colours. It's like flying through an original Game Boy camera. It's horrendous. I mean, the GPA a lump of wood. Do you know what I mean? And then there's tabs. There's more cable ties than any S&M session that I've ever known of. Shout out to Matt Hillier. Tinky little bugger. Like, you know, there's just like a mass of wires, and there's a fossil stuff strap, and you know, like it's so bad. I haven't even balanced the props. It's horrendous. Anything over 3/4 throttle, it is like a battery operated sex aid.
Jack, can I just say that is very nostalgic watching you hold that, because that's what we were all flying 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We thought that was red hot.
Yeah.
And it's still, you know what? And it worked really well. So go on then. What's been your experience with iNav on that thing? Because what was that? An SP3 in the middle of it?
Yeah, genuine SPF 3, 60 quid from Dominic Clifton.
Hello to Dominic.
Yep, Mr. Clean Fly. You got a choice. You either come on the show, or I will.
You'll start promoting clones.
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll steal Laura and yeah, take her flying. You won't like that. Jack's got wood. Yeah, very clever. You should see how high it goes. We did that. And use the return to home without calibration. Yeah, that's what we did. So I've done the whole fly it, flip it in acro, try and totally mess up the GPS, and it still returned to home. I flew really high, you know, achieved like a really high maximum point, and it just flies back at what level it came at home at. What else did it do? I haven't calibrated the ACC properly, so when you go into level mode, it's tilted to the left slightly. All the props are unbalanced. I got terrible vibration.
It keeps you on your toes, though, doesn't it?
It's horrendous. It is horrendous. It flies like a Fiesta that's been in a category D write-off.
Yeah, Cat D.
Like, you know,
it does fly for 27 minutes.
Yeah, with the alien, and it's a good laugh, like, you know. And I'm there, and I'm like hovering it into the barn of Hidden Valley, and like using it to explore. And it was, you know, it really sort of like reminds me of the old flight test days. You know, it's not, you know, like it's not about speed. It's about like buggering off, and if you lose it, being like, can I be even bothered to go pick it up? It's biodegradable. Some hedgehog will make a lovely home out of that.
So using using the magnetometer on board the flight controller, you haven't done any wackiness externally or any of that jazz?
No, I have not.
Cool.
It's just the straight normal one. Admittedly, I've moved it about 2.5 centimeters away from the actually 3, because the bottom plate's the power distribution board on that, so it's a good 3 centimeters at least from the power distribution board. And I've got, you know, I've got the micro minimum OSD running on the top plate. That does have a little bit of noise line with it, but yeah, all in all, I'm very impressed with iNav. And I was shocked to hear Trappy say that he uses iNav on his wings, and I messaged that to Chris iForce 2D, and he was very interested in it, because you were saying about the differences on how the GPS works between flying wings and quads, where the wing will use triangulation. It will get close to a satellite and then turn, and then go to the next satellite, and then turn when it gets. Yeah,
the cool thing with any fixed wing, of course, is that you don't have to try and figure out which way you're flying, because you're always, if you're flying you're either flying forward or you're not flying. So any, you know, the direction that you're going in is always going to be where the nose is. So you don't need the compass at all, which is kind of a bit funky. But we're just about started playing with it in here. I'm really excited that you've got it flying, even in that, you know, the wooden copter of death.
It. Painless, say it. It's Poocopter.
Okay, even you got it working in Poocopter. If I can stick it in a nice frame and stuff in here, and replace something like Clean Flight with iNav and stick a GPS on it, just like we used to with the. Because the thing is, I've added GPSs to loads of flight controllers, but the only thing I could bloody do with it was have the GPS coordinates on the on-screen display, which is nice, but that's not really the point. It sounds like we've almost got what we had back in 8-bit multi-Wii days, which I'm excited about because I love that.
Yeah, it worked really well. I remember seeing that and just being like, wow, you know, and that's an 8-bit controller, that multi-Wii flip. It's crazy. You know, I was like, how the hell?
You know, I don't believe in GPS, don't you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's flat. Yeah, I know. If you leave it long enough, it will fly to the edge and hit the membrane. I know. Fuck's sake. Mental case. Yeah, but I you know, like I am thoroughly impressed with it. I've got to give it to you.
Is it cheap?
Like,
is it dear? Is it, how much is it? Yeah, I know.
The only thing I am like mentioning earlier on that I'm considering testing it on is I might have to go get a clone board and see whether that makes any difference, because I've got a genuine Clean Flight board. I wonder if any of the components, you know, a slightly cheaper compass or a magnetometer, you know, and a cheaper barometer would make any difference.
How expensive is the iNav compared to buying a DJI setup?
It's hard.
You can buy just the flight controller and the GPS.
Yeah, I mean, my flight controller when it was new was 60 quid, and it's just sat on, you know, in my drawer for ages. And then you're looking at, I think the GPS was about £20.
Yeah, and 25 quid for the GPS. An STM32F3 base flight controller for what, 30, 40 quid tops?
Yeah.
Yeah, is this a genuine one?
Well, it's not. Well, it depends which ones you're talking about, because everybody's got STM32F3 base flight controllers, haven't they?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what would be the best board to do it with, like a genuine non-clone board. You know, because you were talking about the F1 being like really obsolete and just. Well,
I think anything with an F1 with iNav is not going to be a great option, just because it'll run out of horsepower.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I'm enjoying it anyway. But yeah, I've been deliberately trying to mess it up, and not having much success really.
Man,
But I'm sure I'll find a
so it's-
way. I
I'll
even
go
let
it.
Tony have a go.
Yeah.
So, and Tony's really good at breaking stuff.
That's because he's used to the throttle, mate. That's all that is. It's just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
if it's not sprung,
Then I can't fly it.
that's not his fault. That's what he's learned on.
It is. He's giving away my
Um,
trade secrets now.
I know. That's
So-
it.
so-
Stick a brick on mix.
So bottom line then, Jack, the iNav tick at the moment. So because we're just about to throw a board in a machine and start flashing and playing with the GPS stuff. So I'm getting excited about this now. You've given me a real, because the thing is, you don't see a lot of stuff about iNav in the forums and things, do you? It's kind of the it's always the bridesmaid, never the bride when people talk about clean flight forks.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm, like equally, I'm kind of sad that Clean Flight. I mean, Dom's spent a lot of time working on that new board, and he's got like the nice new, ability to turn the VTX off with a switch on the Tyrannus and stuff like that. And he's come up with a new board, but it's just everything's just taking ages to like update on there. Implement new things on there.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, it's such a shame when the GPS did break. I mean, admittedly, you're limited by two different GPS pucks, which sucks.
What
You
you
know,
putting-
U
what
blocks.
putting yours on, Painless?
I'm probably just going to see what's in the spares bin, because you can set pretty much anything, any NMEA or U blocks GPS is going to work. Series 8 or Series 9 is probably best. But I mean, we've got really old, crappy Series 6 and Series 7 stuff still kicking around that I used to use all the time really successfully with multi-way. And I've still got all that, because every time we got a new flight controller, it'd be like, oh, bloody hell, what am I going to put this on now? So I'd take a multi-way off something and stick a new flight controller on that. So I've got all these GPSs around. So I might see if I can get some of the slightly older stuff working, because so long as you've got a half reasonable lock, I mean, that'll be a bit of a test, wouldn't it? See if something like a Neo
Sirius.
7, a Neo 7 or one of the old Sirius ones, the 6Ms or one of those guys would work with it. Should do in theory.
I'd like
I
to
think
see
I've got
one on the wing.
4M. Yeah, I think that's my next venture really.
Yeah, because you can't really fly wings, can you, Jack? So it might help you.
I've got issues. I've actually killed a Tech Sumo.
Why?
Right,
Last time I
more
spoke
than
to
one.
you, it was all going tickety-boo and you were having a whale of a time. What have you done?
Few VTX problems basically. Yeah,
But he blames it on VTX.
well, it's a bit difficult to fly when you can't see. So yeah,
What did
And,
it just crap out on you, and then it was a bit of a
yeah,
with the ground?
It was. It's
yeah,
been-
pretty
it's
much.
been
So I
in-
might.
it's been in half about 4 times.
Oh mate, like more than that. Like it's been in half more times than that. So it's
It
not good.
Hot glue and tape are wonderful things, Jack. A mate of mine, I'm sure, was 75% hot glue by the time he finally retired it. It weighed about 2 kilograms.
Yeah, it gets heavier and heavier.
Mine did start to feel a bit like a manhole cover. So I'd like a green Christmas. Dazzle, you're a naughty boy. Yeah, what are you looking forward to next year in flying? Stuff that you can talk about.
At the moment, we're playing a lot with FPV sims, actually. And they seem to be getting an awful lot better. My flying isn't. but I'm hoping that we'll be able to start some videos on that soon. They've been really good. I'd love to get it to find one that's got a really good online mode that we could all get onto and race virtually, even if we couldn't get together and race physically.
Yeah,
That'll
be fun.
That'll be cool. Hopefully, I've got one lined up. So we need to do a little bit more testing. The thing is, they're evolving so quickly. Is every time I go back to the manufacturer and say, "All right, thanks very much. What are you doing with this?" They go, "Oh, we're about to do an update on that. Don't do that yet." So what the one I really like, that they're about to release a major update. So we're kind of hanging on for that. The other thing we've got some stuff coming from Trappy. So those guys have got some cool stuff coming out. So we'll be playing with the new TBS race timer. Have you seen that?
Yep, seen that.
I've seen how expensive it is.
I haven't seen how much is it, because we're getting a pre-prod sample to have a look at.
I think it was like £1,000, wasn't it?
No, that's not the one I'm talking. The one I'm talking about looks like like the neuralizer from Men in Black, but a fat one of them with 5 lights on the bottom. He's got the full race system, which looks like a little brick with loads of USB ports on the back. I think that's the one you're talking about. And then they got this little thing which connects to your like Android phone or your Apple phone.
Pocket, what's just been released.
Yeah, it's just
with a little antenna.
That's it. You just stick it by the gate, and as your quad goes past, basically it knows who's transmitting on what FPV frequency, and it kind of uses the FPV frequency to time the laps. And then that all goes back to the app to keep your lap times done. We're going to play. That sounds really exciting.
That does sound good, because it's better than unsoldering your quad ready for race day, finding your 5-volt in to put your timer on and all that rubbish.
Yeah, or turning up and finding that they're using a different system.
I hated all that. Trying to find somewhere to put it. What side of the gate is it going to be on, left or right, and all that rubbish?
All that jazz.
I know, and then half the time it doesn't read anyway.
Yeah.
And then you have to fly through exactly the same gate to get it to. Oh man. And
you have to fly through level, not on
an angle.
Because I flew through an angle at the Nationals and it weren't counting.
So we'll see how this one actually works. It sounds like it's got a little bit of black magic in it and voodoo. So I need to figure out how it. I've actually got the guy's name at TBS, so when it's here, I can figure out what it actually does and tell you.
Does it just count one quad or
no
eight quads or whatever?
From what I understand, Tony, and caveat, it's something Trap and I were talking about very quickly. It looks like you basically tell it which channels and frequencies everybody's on and assign the name of the pilot to that channel and frequency. And then as that channel and frequency goes past and it detects the peak, that's the point it measures the lap, and it then pushes that to the app, and the app's the thing that then says, oh right, that's channel F7 is Tony, so here's his lap time.
So that sounds good. We could have a massive TV in the field as well. We're going to do that now, don't you? We're going to have a big TV in the field this summer. Bradders will reverse his van up. There'll be a TV in the back with all our race information on there.
Is Pimp My Ride still going? Because what you want is somebody to pimp a van, don't you? With the doors that open at the back and big screens come out with the subwoofers. That's what you need.
I knew this like IT guy called like Nick, and he had he bought like a little TV with him, little analog TV, and he was running it off battery power, and it was awesome because he would hold it out in front of you, and you'd be watching yourself fly through the TV. So you were FPV at you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So it really meta. So yeah, you could see your quad hovering and you were watching your bizarre, really, really bizarre. I wish I had it on camera, but I didn't. I weren't hitting record. It was really back in the day. I think that was like Mini Air Show 1. That wasn't a Mini Air Show. It was the first time at Hidden Valley, and it was on the line of sight thing, and he just had like a little TV. It was like a 20-odd inch TV with a receiver on it, and it was just really good. He just used to prop it on the ground and chill.
I like that idea. That's very good. We got the last couple of things then, mate. We'll probably goof around some more cameras. There's loads of new FPV cameras coming out that I can't talk about yet, but we'll be getting them here and having to play with those. And there's a couple of new flying gadgets and some new goggles and stuff that we'll be looking at in January, February too, that I can't talk about yet. So the start of the year is going as just like the end of this year is going to be really busy. But it's just when you look back on all the stuff that we've done over this year and how the hobbies come on, I can't wait to see what we get up to next year.
It never stops, does it? It's just quick.
No.
It's not slowing down either, is it, Tony? It just
it's not.
You keep thinking, right, we've reached a plateau. It's gonna, and then someone else will have another bit of innovation. And I'm with Jack on the not closing the open source stuff too much, because I think that stifles innovation. But at the moment, it's just every time you think, okay, this is getting a bit boring, somebody sends you an email or drops you a line, and you look at the product and go, oh wow, that's awesome. That's the stuff that I thought we were getting that I had to compromise on, and it's kind of coming around now.
I'm looking forward to HD, but better than
HD that works.
Yeah.
Soon, maybe next year.
Do you reckon next year? Or,
Yeah, maybe.
I would be crazy. He said he's talking to Connex, and he's something with their antennas, make them a bit smaller and stuff.
More sensitive. Well, what did you guys think of the Connex stuff at the drone show? Because I was watching some of the racing and trying to follow it on those big screens.
Good. It looked.
They
really
didn't get
good.
the Connex working.
Yeah.
Did they?
I don't think or did they do one race? I don't recall. I've seen it indoors, and it looks better than using any analog indoors. Put it that way. I'd rather run a Connex system indoors than an analog indoors.
The only thing I saw was, the indoor bit. Now and again, they would have like a quad inside the middle part where the race cars were, because that was netted off as well. And they had something running Connex there, and cut a long story short, it froze out and the guy crashed. And and that was, I was watching it with my buddy Dan, and that was my first impression of it. The screen went green and all glitchy, and that was it. So
yeah, that's the only thing I don't like with the Connex kit we've got here. When it starts to misbehave, like in analog, you get that little bit of snow and the crackling, and you think, oh, I'm pushing it, I'll turn around. The Connex just seems to have a really, really thin line of tolerance, where it's like, oh, it's working, it's great, crap, and then the whole blocks freeze, and then you've got to try and pray that it's going to come back before you hit the ground. And I want more of a warning that I'm going to push it, because it just seems to go from like full strength to nothing very, very quickly. I don't know whether it's something I'm doing wrong or it's the antennas, but watching the racing at the drone show, they seem to have a couple of problems in there as well on the Saturday, with the interference and the crackling. I think, mind you, it was quite a busy, there was lots of radios and frequency interference, and I think they were turning off some of the Wi-Fi at one point on the Saturday, weren't they?
Yeah.
It's just, I know Connex were supporting it, but I just wanted it to have been such a nice thing to watch the racing in HD, and I came away, just feeling like it wasn't a great bit of promotion for them.
No, it wasn't, I don't think. And the worst thing is, we're all going to have to buy all new goggles and everything, aren't we?
Yeah. To be fair, I'm a big fan of the analog FPV anyway. I know it's 640 by 480. We're talking about VGA, back from the bloody 90s when we had computers. But I'm quite happy with that. With a really nice camera on a sunny day, and with half decent goggles, I'm completely immersed. I know it's not as nice as HD, and you notice when you go back, but for me, that's still a lovely experience FPVing like that.
Yeah, it is. But I really like coming home and editing all my footage from my HD cam. But like, I'm trying to learn to fly without a HD cam anymore, so it's really light and stuff. But it'd be nice to have the video footage from a Connex that you can record, take home, and it's HD, and you haven't had that extra, bit of weight or whatever, or your GoPro on the top.
Right. So what you mean, like a Mobius or a Run Cam or something, or a GoPro, right?
Yeah. So getting rid of that and spending your money on the Connex, and being able to record the HD racing of the day just through the camera.
You see, now that it's things like that I'm I'm sad they didn't put on the current Pro Sight, which, you know, like an SD card on the transmitter, so it could record locally. There's a couple of cool little things they could have done, which would have made it so much nicer.
Definitely, yeah.
So, what are you looking forward to next year, Jack?
I ain't got a clue. Like the stuff that I can talk about, I don't know. I mean, I'm really sort of like grateful for what we've got. I'm really grateful for D-Shot. I'm really looking forward to the night camera, and also I'm looking forward to, you know, like the infrared floodlight that you've got.
Yeah,
that's something I'm excited for. You know, I'm looking forward to freestyling the Brighton Pier. You know, I want to get round to doing that, and
The old one you're talking about?
the burnt out one. I'm gonna try and do that. I like kind of drew a crude frame out, and Dan Upton has been designing that for ages, which I'm really grateful for. So I'm going to be playing, as soon as I get that back, I've got to make a jig, and I'm going to be playing with the Storm gimbal. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I might not be. I might actually be wanting to just die because I can't get the thing to work. But
I'm sure you'll be fine.
so yeah, like Poocopter Mark II with a gimbal. I'm kind of looking forward to that, and working on iNav with a wing. You know, so that's kind of, they're my projects for next year, basically, that have kind of bled over from this year. Better batteries, maybe. You know, the ones from Overlander.
I just got 10 of them.
Yeah, have you got the new ones though?
No, they're the 1600 are coming out in February. But I was so impressed with the one I got that I ordered 10 of them.
The
1600s are going to be the same size of a 1300 milliamp hour, and they're much smaller than the graphines, or the, can I do that, graphene?
Yeah,
because they're not really graphene, are they?
No, who knows what they are? But
Well, if they're graphene, they're microscopic bits of graphene that no one can see.
Pagnus, what's your view on graphene? Have you given them a go?
Yeah, we use quite a few of them here. I like them as they work brilliantly as batteries. They're batteries. I mean, for me, I'm not like you and Tony in that, you know, it's not I'm not an out and out racer, so I'm probably not pushing them as hard as some other people are, but I find them, yeah, really good. But then anything with a decently high C rating will kind of perform well. But I tend to be one of those really old school pilots where I'm really anal about making sure that I never take more than about 75% out of the battery, and that I always try and size batteries appropriately, things like that. So I'm probably not right at the raggedy edge where I'll see the real differences.
Biox FPV asks, what do you think about the Infinity graphene? I've got no idea what you're on about, dude. No idea.
Do we believe that there's graphene in any of the graphines?
Yeah, switch to Infinity graphene, 40 grams less weight. I did fly it for 55 minutes plus, and I really sagged it, apparently.
Okay, yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Got people like Banggood are flogging them Infinity 4S graphene packs. That's interesting.
Mad. Yeah. I don't know whether this is a thing, because you would know more than me, but I'm kind of slightly interested on SPF4. You know, the F4 board.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to the series as it's coming along now. Because we've got two more videos to shoot. One of them is actually going through the on-screen display. The last video we did that's up in the series that will be out in January, but you can still find in the playlist, actually shows what the on-screen display looks like. And it just, I mean, I was talking to you before, Jack, about it, and it just, when I first fired it up and saw the on-screen display, I just started giggling, because it just looked exactly like I wanted the Minim OSD to look the very first time I fired one up. You know, proper vector-based graphics, silky smooth, looks awesome. So the next video is going to be looking at the on-screen display, because it even it's some other cool stuff here as well. Do you like Team Black Sheep have introduced this extra special way that you can configure their video transmitters, and you can set the frequency, the band, and the power that they transmit on all through the flight controller.
Yeah.
They've actually implemented that in their version of Beta Flight as well. So there's some quite cool stuff coming on. And then the last one is they've also made it so, and this was interesting for the iNav stuff, it's expandable. So there's a little port on the top of this F4 board that you can snap daughter boards into, and they've got one that's a barometer. And then they're not going to do a magnetometer one because it's too close to all the electronics anyway. But it means that if you just want to expand and add extra sensors in, you just buy the little daughter board and snap it onto the top.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, some really smart idea. So you can start off with something basic, and then if you want to go mad and iNav, then you can start snapping in all the rest of the bobbins.
Wicked. All right, guys, we're at time now, so yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Yeah, Painless, do you wanna just read us our little marriage thing? And Tony's got to say I do.
No, you know I'm not going to say I do.
Yeah, you got to, or I'm not
I
ending the
won't.
stream. Yeah. All right. Do you, Tony?
Do you, Tony? Will you love him, honor, and obey him?
Never.
All right, maybe we'll have to try again in the new year. Merry Christmas, guys. Have a wonderful festive time, and all the best for next year.
Merry Christmas.
No worries. Right, I'm going to poke some holes in that boiler of yours in the back of the van now. That's the last time I fix anything for you, you ungrateful vegan. I was just a quick little story, but we were talking about animals at the hospital, and I was trying to explain to everyone how like Tony's like a friend of all the animals, and he loves all the animals. And Tony's rescued this dog called Wally, and the only reason this dog is alive is because no one else wanted him. He attacked everyone. Gobshite dog, hates everyone. The only reason this dog's alive is because of Tony, and even that dog hates Tony. So
He actually does. No, he doesn't.
yeah.
I'm the only one who can pick him up, but I have to do it like that. Oh, he's lovely. He's just been mistreated.
Tony,
like me.
I can't help it. Mistreat you, Jack.
Yeah.
It's when you've been nice to him, he worries. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
No, thank you. Merry Christmas. Also, a Christmas gift. If anyone wants this KK2 board, it works. I can draw a penis on it. Yeah. Send an email to Tony. What's your email? What's your email, Tone? Tonstar15555@gmail.com.
Oh yeah, that'll do.
All right.
That's the one.
No. Email bright until I fly at gmail.com if you want to win the this and do something cool with it. Yeah, I'm gonna give it away. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming on, Painless.
My pleasure, Jack. Have a good one.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Happy flying.
Happy flying.